a suicide bomber from the Jenin area.
And earlier Sunday, a suicide bomb attack killed or wounded scores of people.
Incredible, utter destruction wrought by just one person.
Palestinian gunmen opened fire on a minibus carrying the pieces to their school.
Suicide bomber came onto the bus wearing suspected explosives.
A Palestinian man set off explosives attached to his body.
Gunmen opened fire, killing 2 Israelis, including a 7-month-old baby.
This was the trigger. 20 killed and 100 injured as they sat down to a Passover supper that they would never finish. The 27-year-old Palestinian suicide bomber who did this not only destroyed lives, he also struck a fatal blow to the peacemaking efforts of the United States.
Terror is a crime against humanity. The fence now under construction is meant to provide protection from Palestinian terror attacks, attacks against which the Palestinian Authority has consistently refused to act, attacks that have caused and continue to cause horrific bloodshed. With murderous suicide bombings on the rise since October 2000, Israel's government saw the need to erect a fence that could prevent the murderers from reaching their targets. Had the Palestinian leadership abided by its pledge to act against terror, there would never have been a need for a fence. It's just a 15-minute walk from the Palestinian city of Kalkilia to the Israeli city of Kfar Saba. Just 15 minutes. In some places, just 12 kilometers separate the route of the fence from the Mediterranean Sea. In the long run, by preventing terrorism, the fence will actually encourage dialogue with the Palestinians, no longer hampered by the influence of terrorists determined to destroy the peace process. The numbers speak for themselves. Not a single suicide bomber has gotten past the security fence built around the Gaza Strip. In those parts of the West Bank where the fence has been completed, terrorist activities have dropped by some 50%. Hundreds of people have been saved from injury and death. The Berlin Wall was built to stop people from fleeing to freedom. The security fence serves exactly the opposite purpose. It prevents terrorists from attacking innocent civilians. It's not a wall, it's a fence. In fact, just 20 kilometers of the total 730 planned, less than 3%, take the form of a wall. And that's only where the danger of shooting attacks requires a solid structure. Israel shares the same moral commitment of all democratic countries to enable its people to live in the truest sense of the word. Suicide attacks carried out in Israel have victimized both Jews and Arabs, men and women, senior citizens and small children from various ethnic and religious groups, tourists and permanent residents, foreign workers and new immigrants. The security fence is meant to protect all of them. Yes, indeed. This fence is meant to separate people, to separate terrorist murderers from innocent civilians. There's a delicate equation here which forces us to weigh the right to freedom of movement against the right to life. Israel is doing everything possible to minimize the damage caused by the fence. It strives to ease the situation of civilians who feel that the fence impinges upon them. Yes, it's a security fence, but it's being built with maximum consideration for the needs of the Palestinian population. The fence will include 41 gates for farmers, 11 crossing points, and 5 terminals for the transfer of goods. Israel has replanted more than 63,000 olive trees for Palestinian farmers to ensure their livelihood despite construction of the fence. All Palestinian civilians are free to lodge formal complaints and to appeal any decisions made. Israel makes every attempt to take such complaints into account. While focused on the prevention of terror attacks, Israel stands ready to consider changing the route of the fence wherever it disrupts the lives of Palestinian civilians. The few landowners affected by the construction of the fence have been offered compensation for their lands and for their harvests of the next 5 years, while they retain legal ownership of their property. This fence is for security, so it must follow a route that ensures security. The green line is not a security line. It's a political line. The fence is not a border. Final borders will be determined only through negotiations. The fence is meant to serve one and only one purpose: to prevent terrorists from carrying out murderous attacks in buses, schools, and restaurants. It's not a border and not a substitute for a border. It's a temporary step that Israel feels compelled to take until the Palestinian Authority finally puts an end to the terror being carried out with its approval and financial and moral support, and enters into a comprehensive peace agreement. It simply isn't the case. The security fence is temporary, meant to provide self-defense. It can be dismantled and moved within days. It's a phenomenon that can be reversed, unlike the deaths of all those killed by the terrorists. Israel has already moved fences as a result of political agreements. That's what it did along its borders with Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon. In fact, Israel moved its Lebanese border security fence no less than 12 times. The anti-terror fence is a matter of self-defense. It's a pragmatic, effective, temporary measure necessitated by endless terror attacks. When the terror ends, so will the need for the fence.